This week on the High Limit Room, we jump into the top 10 storylines from the Kubota High Limit Racing season. Tony Laporta, Brian Walker, and myself, Chase Rodman, discuss and dissect the 2025 season. Let's get into it.
Number 10.
Oh, no, big wreck in turn number 1. Brad Sweet upside down. Tyler Courtney upside down.
Injuries to the top 3 in driver points at Eldora.
So injuries were a big part of this season, of course, with the top 3 in points all being injured during the Eldora Speedway Kings Royal weekend. Brad Sweet, Aaron Reutzel, and Tyler Courtney all getting into big wrecks there, and 2 of those drivers having to sit out for multiple races, Tony. That was certainly a huge storyline at the midpoint of the season, as all 3 of those guys were the top 3 in the point standings.
Yeah, I think I talked about it during the introduction of Tyler Courtney at the banquet back at Tannehill's in Texas. At the time of his crash during the Joker's Jackpot, Tyler Courtney was second in the owner's standings, only 12 markers back. And then Aaron Reutzel the very next night gets in his crash. Brad Sweet gets knocked out with a concussion one night later, during the Kings Royal, heat races and action leading into Saturday night. Huge shakeup to the championship.
Yeah, it certainly was. And Brian, with all those injuries coming into play, it's kind of led us to seeing Giovanni Scelzi become a high roller. Obviously, that same week he left the 18-car KCP Racing. Things worked out for him to jump in that 7BC. Gio finished out the year as a high roller, ended up 4th in the points with CMR. But your thoughts on those injuries to those 3 drivers as well?
It allowed me to memorize. It's pretty sad. I had the hospital memorized 1 Wyoming Street, Dayton, Ohio, because just every night we were sending a different driver there. So that wasn't cool. But yeah, it definitely opened the doors for someone like Giovanni Scelzi to get a new ride. We saw Cole Duncan run the 7BC at Lernerville. We learned what medical provisionals are. Brad Sweet didn't go to a high limit race for the first time in the history of the world. So it was definitely a unique time and hopefully something we don't encounter for a while.
Yeah, definitely something we would like to avoid. But yeah, I mean, this is something that we hope to never see again. And it definitely shook up as far as the championship goes, having to have Justin Sanders fill in for the 87, Gio for the 7BC. And as you mentioned, Brian, Brad Sweet sat out of the 49 car for one night as well, and allowed Rico Abreu to really establish himself at the top of the point standings.
Number 9.
We know how bad Spencer wants to beat the car that he was just let go of earlier on this week.
Jason Myers Racing and Spencer Bayston split ways.
Another big topic of discussion this season with High Limit Racing was the partnership between Spencer Bayston and Jason Myers Racing. And after the Knoxville Nationals, right there at the halfway point of the season, those 2 parties decided to not be together anymore after the Knoxville Nationals. And JMR had to do a lot to try and get through the rest of the year with 4 different drivers filling the seat of that car. Obviously, not how we wanted things to end for Spencer Bayston and JMR. And obviously, they didn't want it to end like that as well, Brian. But that was definitely a pretty large storyline there after the Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw it coming down the stretch of the season. It surprisingly turned into like a franchise by committee type situation. You saw 5 different drivers in that car by the end of the year between Spencer, obviously Corey Day jumped in right after, and then they had Darren Pittman flew up to Washington, Trey Starks flew over to Pennsylvania, Justin Sanders was going across the country with his seat. It was definitely an interesting storyline to follow, and it was almost like every week you were asking, all right, who's in the JMR 14 this time?
Yeah, you definitely had to be on your toes to, try and remember who was going to be in the car for whatever week. And they still had a relatively successful season, Tony, as, of course, Corey Day won the Gold Cup again, won a couple of other races as well. But definitely, as Brian mentioned, franchise by committee. And we'll wait and see what the future holds for JMR. We know that Bayston's got his future set in stone over at the Outlaws. But JMR, we're still waiting to see what happens with those guys. A crazy year for them.
Yeah, there was a lot of fanfare and a lot of excitement. In fact, I remember the first ever episode of the High Limit Room, the show that we do every week. If memory serves me correctly, the first middle segment interview I ever hosted was with Spencer Bayston at the Kubota High Limit Racing offices in Brownsburg, Indiana. He was really excited. I know his fans, JMR's fans, were really excited to see how that pairing would go together. I think 7 top 10s for Bayston when he was in the Jason Myers Racing 14. So nobody's going to say that it was a wildly successful pairing. And that happens all the time in sprint car racing. That happens all the time in sports, right? 2 groups to come together. It doesn't always work out. And then both parties move on. Oftentimes finding more success. So excited to see what Spencer can do over at the Outlaws. And I'm, of course, hoping to see more Jason Myers Racing cars with us at High Limit in 2026.
Number 8.
Travis Aarons. He wins $26,000 at 141 Speedway.
18 different winners across the 2025 season.
Cole Macedo wins at Fremont Speedway. And he flips out to the line. Upside down, a huge way after the line.
There were 18 different winners in 2025 with High Limit Racing in the 51 races that we had. And of course, we're not going to name every single one of those 18 winners, but just a couple that come to mind here. Travis Aarons, his huge win during the Race Redeem Foundation event. Cole Macedo with an emotional win at Fremont, a crazy finish. Justin Sanders finally breaks through. Tanner Thorson, he finally broke through. Ryan Timms and his domination at Port Royal Speedway. So many different winners in 2025 with High Limit. It was so much fun to see these different guys in victory lane. Brian, which one of those guys, maybe I didn't even mention him right there, but which one stands out to you the most?
To me, I think it's Cole Macedo, honestly, just the fashion that he did it in and, how unforgettable that night ended up becoming, the win and then, flip right out. I mean, he junked the car after the checkered. He didn't even know it was a checkered. He thought he completely threw the race away. And then it's a whole debacle trying to weigh the car, and he gets on top of a meleeed wing in victory lane with Tony. So I think, Cole's first High Limit win, and it being at Fremont too, was really special for him. And, the way he went about winning it was something all of us will always remember.
Yeah, certainly cannot forget where you were at that night at Fremont Speedway with Cole Macedo's win. Same question for you, Tony. Obviously, you got to interview each and every one of these guys in victory lane this year. Which one stood out to you the most?
Yeah, I agree with Brian. It was super cool to get to be a part of that victory lane. They made a t-shirt out of the scene in victory lane for Cole Macedo, although they really made me look pretty disfigured in the drawings of that, but maybe that's how most people see me. I'm not worried about it. I'm beautiful on the inside. That's what I know. I was really happy to see two high rollers break through and pick up their own first ever National 410 Touring Series victories. Danny Sams, again, you talk about, like Brian did, the circumstances in Cole Macedo's win. Those were crazy circumstances. Danny's were equally crazy, I think. A lot of people had a lot to say, but at the end of the day, what they say doesn't matter. Danny Sams III is a National 410 Wing Sprint Car feature winner. And then for Tanner Thorson, he's been in the game way longer than Danny Sams. So, Danny Sams, it was his rookie season, a big breakthrough in there. But for Thorson, man, he's been beating the drum, getting after it, chasing this dream for a very long time. And they do things their own way. To see them finally make their own way, be the successful and the winning way, that was really cool. I'm grateful to have been there to see it, to be a part of it, and to watch those guys celebrate. They have been doing it their own way for a very long time.
And I think I'll go with the biggest upset of the year, maybe one of the biggest upsets in the history of sprint car racing, with Travis Aarons over at the 141 Speedway with the Race Redeem Foundation race, winning $26,000, driving by Bill Baylog, one of the best ever at that racetrack. Travis Aarons with less than 70 or 60 410 sprint car starts ever, his one and only national touring start. He goes to victory lane, jumps in the pond in the infield. An incredible scene down there at 141. That's another moment that I don't think we'll ever forget. And when Travis Aarons walked out of 141 Speedway with $26,000, that one, to me, sticks out the most for 2025.
Number 7.
Jason Persley, as a Rookie of the Year contender, is going to get his first national win tonight at Lernerville Speedway.
Jason Persley and Danny Sams III win as rookies.
To the outside, new leader in turn 2, the Florida man to the top spot. Danny Sams takes the lead down the back straightaway.
We had 4 Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders this season. 2 of them were able to get to victory lane. And you look at the other side of things with the Outlaws, they had 7 rookies this year. And as of this recording, none of them able to go to victory lane. Of course, Cole Macedo won with High Limit Racing, but with the 2 that won with High Limit as far as the rookies go, Danny Sams and Jason Persley, that was a pretty big deal. Brian, your prediction of the rookies getting 5 wins did not come true, but you almost got halfway through there. Still a pretty cool deal to see both Danny Sams and Jason Persley go to victory lane in their respective races.
Yeah, it was awesome to see, and they're both big wins for him. Obviously, Jason's being $30,000 at Lernerville, and to do it over Brad Sweet, who later we'll talk about, he's in that car now. And Danny Sams is, man, what a cool win. I think that was one of the most that was one of the few times you'll see like online that everyone is happy for someone, right? You know, I don't think I saw anything negative about Danny winning that night, even though it was rain shortened at Bridgeport. And like the other ones, Chase Randall and Cy Lynch were close. They each had several chances. Cy was on the podium at Lernerville. Lucas Oil, Chase Randall locked in, I think, multiple 2-day shows. So it was really cool to see how all 4 rookies really did have such a great year.
Yeah, they did all have some podiums and some really good runs throughout the year. And Tony, I'm sure out of those two, Danny Sam's win was very emotional. And then getting to celebrate, quote unquote, the victory at the banquet was also cool with all the confetti flying as well. A great year for the rookies. And it was cool to see the first ever season for a Rookie of the Year race comes down to Dayson Pursley getting $5,000.
Yeah, I remember being really excited. And when we did this first episode of the High Limit Room, going on and on about how talented our Rookie of the Year class would be. I'm a big fan of all 4 of the Race for Dean Foundation Rookie of the Year drivers, Cy Lynch, Dayson Pursley, Danny Sams, and Chase Randall. It was cool to get to know Cy Lynch a little bit last year when he came and ran a few races with us. I'm fortunate to know both Dayson Pursley and Chase Randall from my time at USAC. Chase, I know you don't like it when I talk about when I was at USAC, but it happened. I'm sorry. I got to know those guys back in 2021. I won't mention it anymore. And then getting to know Danny Sams and his family this year. Again, that's a super big, mountaintop for me, getting to know all those families a little bit better. And, Dayson Pursley, I mean, if you look at his 2025 high limit season, I got it pulled up here on the third turn. After the halfway point of our 2025, I'm pretty sure, and counting's never been my strong suit, but he finishes in the top 10 more times than he doesn't in the second half of 2025. And that's why for his introduction at the banquet, I talked about, hey, first the speed showed up in qualifying, then the race pace followed. And he had a really good second half of the year. Obviously that victory at Lernerville will stand out, but I thought they were consistent. He became more confident, and that was the best part of watching his Rookie of the Year campaign unfold.
Yeah, and that run that Brian mentioned earlier, Lernerville, a race that when Greendick checkered, started on the pole, fell back to 4th or 5th, and tracked down one of the best guys ever at Lernerville in Brad Sweet to take down the win is certainly something we will not soon forget. Also wanted to mention Cy Lynch. He was the most improved driver from the first half of the year to the second half of the year, and a win is certainly on the horizon for him in the Mosinus Motorsports number 42 team.
Number 6.
Later on in the program, we will be live on FS1, so make sure to tell your friends.
Kubota High Limit Racing goes to national television live on FS1.
Another big thing that happened this year was bringing sprint cars back to national television with the race for the Double Down Duels and the Joker's Jackpot taking place on Fox Sports 1. It was the first race in 5 years where we've seen sprint cars on live TV. It was a huge deal. Of course, Kyle Larson would go on to get the win, but how awesome was it, Brian, to have sprint cars back in the spotlight and get so many new fans, looking at our type of racing and see just how exciting it was?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's such a huge opportunity to not only grow High Limit as a series, but sprint car racing as a sport. And I think we accomplished that in just one night. And I think there's more opportunity down the road to continue doing that. It was just really cool that you could, I think Tony did it. Tony did a great job of, he sent like 500 text messages out that morning, like, hey, we're on FS1 tonight. Watch here. Like, it's that easy. Like, you don't need a Flow subscription. You don't need anything. Just turn your TV on and watch a sprint car race. And then they were treated to an incredible broadcast too. I remember going back to the house and watching it afterwards, and everyone did a great job from production to you guys in the booth, and the racing was a good reminder of how dangerous sprint car racing is, but also what makes it exciting. And then the racing was awesome as well. I can imagine it was pretty cool for you guys to be on TV, right, Tony?
Yeah, that was a huge event, and I want to tip a cap to Johnny Gibson from the World of Outlaws. He shot Chase Rodman, Blake Anderson, and myself all a text the morning of that race, and he just said, hey, I've done this. I've called a sprint car race live on network television, and it's an incredible experience. Take it as slow as you can. Let it come to you. And it was something really personal and really cool from Johnny to Chase and Blake and I. And he was right. It's an incredible experience. That whole day from a production standpoint felt very, very different, even though it was still our normal production team. Tyler McKim, Chet Christner at FloRacing produced that whole show. Fox Sports 1 simply picked up the feed. And Chase, I don't want to speak for you, but I know from down in the pits, we had things so scheduled, so regimented with commercial breaks and being in a TV window to all the way at the end when Kyle Larson's in victory lane. We've already gone over our TV window and our live window we were supposed to stay in. And they're telling me in the moment, hey, you got time for one more question. Okay, we might get second and third. Go to them. All right, you're good. Work this in, work that in. It was super fly by the seat of our pants. And it was a lot of fun. And if I'm not mistaken, the Outlaws broadcast was in 2020, the last time they were on live network television. I mean, that's impressive for any sport to be on live TV. But I'll just say this. It was 2025 when High Limit went on live network television. In 2020, networks were looking for anything to put on TV. We had to break through a whole bunch of other live sporting events. High Limit had to prove to Fox Sports 1 that it was worth giving some TV time in the middle of a normal, non-pandemic year. I think that says a lot for the value of High Limit that Fox Sports 1, they weren't dying for content this summer. They carved out a window for us, and I think that says a lot about High Limit as a product.
Yeah, no doubt about that, and we'll wait and see if there is any chance that it happens again for 2026, and it was definitely nerve-wracking. That first shot when they come into Eldora Speedway and Blake Anderson and I are on that camera there, realizing, hey, we are on live television. It is a lot different than being on FloRacing because, I don't know, it just feels way different when you're on TV knowing that there's so many new people watching, and if you make any mess up, people are going to be saying, what the heck's this guy talking about? But definitely a huge opportunity. High Limit Racing is so grateful to Fox Sports 1 and everybody at FloRacing for allowing that to happen, and we'll wait to see if it happens again next year.
Number 5.
The introduction for the first time ever in short track racing of a franchise system. We're going to discuss that.
Kubota High Limit Racing franchise announcement.
Gives the team owners, kind of some knowledge and transparency on, what's going on with the series and the avenues that we're seeking for growth. So it just sets us up for long-term success, and it sets the teams up for long-term success too.
We kicked off the season with a bang at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track with a huge announcement. I said it at the banquet this year, the sport-altering, groundbreaking franchise system that High Limit Racing announced. It was something that had been mentioned for the year or two previous, and not everybody really knew what that was going to look like. But now we do know what it looks like. Those first 10 franchises are set in stone at the end of the year, with Rico Abreu Racing and now Tony Stewart Racing going to have a $425,000 franchise going into next year, with the other 10 teams having a pretty big sum of money also being allotted to them. Brian, this, like I said, is sport altering. We have not seen this kind of money in sprint car racing ever in the history.
Yeah, that was a huge deal. That was a pretty big day at Las Vegas. Obviously, that was one of the few times where, I write the press release and I'm freaking out. Like, all right, I make sure I have the right time to send it on, right time zone, everything. Don't want to screw this up. But, that's a huge chunk of change. It was really cool to see it come together, slowly over time. And, next year, 2026, the maximum franchise investment is $4 million. In 2029, it goes up to $5 million. You're going to see over the next couple of years how every single point matters even more over time, right? Like it's a 2-year rolling average. Brad Sweet to the 87 this year, 4 points. That 4 points costs KKR $75,000 next year. Like every single point is going to matter. And the monetary values are just going to continue to go up and up and up. So, it's awesome to see. And I'm excited to see how the franchise system elevates car owners and teams and drivers.
And it was certainly interesting, with having Tyler Courtney in the booth there, those last couple 8-10 races or so. You just talking to him on the mic and off the mic. I mean, this is something, Tony, that these drivers are hyper aware of. Hey, if I lose a position here, this is going to affect me not only this year, but in 2 years' time.
Well, yeah, and I know that myself personally, and we as a group on this show about a month and a half ago or so, we kind of belabored the point of why the Owners' Championship is so important with Kubota High Limit Racing. Well, yes, we might have gotten a little sidetracked from how important the Drivers' Championship truly is. But all that came to light because of the fact a couple drivers got injured and you had guys filling in, and owners standings are what the money goes to at the end of the day. And you got to think about this too when it comes to these franchises. Like you said, Chase, it's groundbreaking. When you say sport altering, that's the perfect way to describe what this franchise system will be for High Limit, because just like how when a car wins a race, that driver has a deal with that car owner where they get 35, 45, 50% of the earnings, right? Well, you best believe that's going to happen now with these franchise agreements and these drivers who are full-time the full-time racers for these teams, they're going to have deals built in like this. You have to assume where Brian Walker drives for Chase Rodman, and Brian Walker and Chase Rodman Racing get a franchise worth $425,000. Well, Brian Walker's going to have some sliver of that, some chunk of that set aside for him if he's good at negotiating his contracts. So you're right. Tyler Courtney's probably up there in the booth chewing down to the bone through his fingernails, because he's like, man, the more money Clausen Marshall Racing makes, the more money Tyler Courtney, stand to make. So yes, sport-altering, groundbreaking kind of numbers are what happened in Las Vegas, and it's because High Limit Racing cares about its drivers and its car owners. It's a wild concept.
Number 4.
Aaron Reutzel got hurt at race 1. 2 races later, he was in victory lane. He broke his foot. Guess what? It's race number 2 back behind the wheel. He's going to repeat history at Port Royal Speedway. Reutzel gets the job done the night before the 50.
A wild season for the 87.
Now, a big addition to High Limit Racing this year was Aaron Reutzel, the former All-Star Circuit of Champions titleist on many different occasions. He was driving the Ridge & Sons Racing 87 this year. Last year, that car was driven by Corey Eliason. They switched things up in the team, bring Reutzel back on the road for the first time in about 3 or 4 years. He had been out of the spotlight. And boy, we knew he was going to be good, but we did not know that this story of Aaron Reutzel was going to turn into what it did, Brian. I mean, and it started right off the bat. He was fast at Las Vegas, but it did not take very long into the season to see things start to go sideways, I guess could be the word to use for him, because right there at Vegas, he broke his nose.
Yeah, I think that's like a perfect way to describe it. Is like pretty much everyone expected Aaron Reutzel to be a title contender with High Limit from the jump, but the way the season unfolded and the way he turned into that title contender, especially with the team, obviously was wild. I mean, breaking your nose at Vegas, coming back the next race, he didn't miss anything. He was running with stitches. He was wearing sunglasses nonstop because his eyes were beat up still. And then to go through what he went through at Eldora, obviously missed his time there, but they happened to get Justin Sanders. And he was incredible on the West Coast, obviously winning at Placerville. He runs, I think, second at Gold Cup. They're so good at Skagit together as well. I mean, that stretch was so instrumental in keeping them in the owner championship down to the last lap at Texas. And then Aaron, he was not 100% when he came back. Obviously, I think we've documented that well enough. To go to Port Royal and win on crutches is insane. I think you saw it at the banquet. He said, he was very open about it. Like, I was done racing for points. Like, I was over running these series, blah, 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 whatever. And he's one of High Limit's biggest supporters now. And we're really glad to have him on board.
Yeah, Tony, if somebody was not an Aaron Reutzel fan going into this year, I find it hard to believe that you either aren't a fan now or you don't respect what he was able to accomplish this season.
I mean, you take the words out of my mouth, Chase. That's what I said from a quarter of the way through the season. I think I tried to turn this phrase a few times, and I basically said, if you're not a fan of him, it's because you don't know him very well. And that could be said for every driver, probably across all racing. Everybody likes to have real strong opinions. Oh, this guy beat my guy. He ran him dirty. He probably didn't run him that dirty. He probably just beat your favorite driver, right? And Aaron Reutzel was that personified to me this year. If you didn't like Aaron Reutzel, it's probably because you don't get a chance to know him away from the guy who's getting out and saying, I can't hear you, I'm counting all my money, or you can't boo a cripple. I mean, the guy's a soundbite machine, right? But Brian, you talked about it with how Reutzel was just such a big impact to High Limit this year. I don't think I ended up sticking with this intro, but what I was going to read for second place Aaron Reutzel in the 87 this year at the banquet started by reading, a spark moves the needle, a conversation starter. These are all ways you could describe the driver of our second place finishing team, because that was Aaron Reutzel before a single injury, before a single crash, before a single soundbite happened. The guy gets people talking. He comes through after having the lights go out on him at Vegas, shattering his nose, destroys his foot at Eldora. Nothing can keep the guy down. I thought Aaron Reutzel was a massive improvement to High Limit before any of that happened. A massive addition, I should say, to High Limit before any of that happened. And then once those stories began to come out, it was just even more to talk about and to celebrate with one of the drivers on our tour.
And not even from the driver's standpoint alone, he even got a win as a crew chief with Justin Sanders at Placerville. So Aaron Reutzel went through a lot this year. He was a great addition to High Limit Racing.
Number 3.
Joining forces with Tony Stewart Racing, I'm going to pilot the Tony Stewart Kerbagajanian number 24, starting in 2026.
Rico Abreu Racing and Tony Stewart team up for the future.
Lawrenceburg Speedway late in the season for the Midweek Series event was obviously a great race, but prior to that event, there was a huge announcement going on that Rico Abreu would be joining Tony Stewart Racing, and Tony Stewart Racing would be leading the World of Outlaws after being with that series for 20 plus years with different drivers, specifically Donnie Schatz, of course. But now going into 2026, we know that Rico and TSR are joining forces. Tony Stewart is hired Rico Abreu to drive that car, and that is definitely worthy of a top 5 mention in our top 10 storylines of the year, Brian.
Yeah, that was another just huge deal for us as a series. High Limit getting someone like Tony Stewart. Obviously, I think you now have the 2 prominent car owners in the sport between Casey Kane and Tony Stewart. Now they're both over here in one series. And hiring a driver like Rico, it doesn't get any better than that. That is the most popular driver in sprint car racing and in one of, the most popular drivers in the history of motorsports between Tony Stewart and then Rico, and then bringing Ricky Warner back into the fold at TSR. Zach and Brady are staying on with Rico. That whole nucleus of the 24 team that just won a title together is going to go have, all the resources they can imagine at TSR and the backing of those corporate sponsors. So it's going to be awesome to see what they do as a new tag team.
I think it goes to show just where High Limit Racing is at to see Tony Stewart Racing leave the World of Outlaws after so many years being with that series, Tony, and just, up and leave one day and say, hey, I'm going to go try something different and do it with the sport's most popular driver.
The only crazier announcement out there would be, like Brian talked about, one of the most popular drivers in all of motorsports, Tony Stewart, hiring the current most popular driver in sprint cars. The only bigger headline would be Kyle Larson hires Chase Rodman. Wait, that already happened.
That'll never happen.
It already did, and it broke the internet when it did. I'll tell you this, I remember either on the Friday night or the Saturday night victory lane at Texas Motor Speedway, it might have been Saturday after Rico officially clinched his first ever sprint car championship. He talked about the fact that Tony Stewart called Rico earlier that weekend, and Rico began to get emotional, and he talked about what Tony told him to do and how important this was moving forward. And that to me screams Tony Stewart is invested in High Limit Racing. He's watching the broadcast. He cares about it, and he's going to go compete in the series full time next year with Rico Abreu. Talk about a lethal combination. You watch Donnie go on a run. You watched Brad go on his run. With Rico Abreu and Tony Stewart Racing, you might be getting ready to see the next major dynasty in sprint car racing take off.
And it was cool that they announced it as well on the Dale Jr. download. They got maximum eyeballs on that announcement. We look forward to seeing what they can do as a team going into 2026.
Number 2.
Many knew this from now. This was my final full-time season.
The Big Cat retires from full-time sprint car racing.
Winding things down here on our top 10 list, we now jump into the announcement that happened at the end of the year during the High Limit Racing Championship banquet. Brad Sweet, a 6-time national champion, 5 with the Outlaws, 1 with High Limit in its inaugural season, announced, kind of surprisingly, that he was going to step back from full-time racing, not retiring all the way, but he will not be a full-time driver for the rest of his career at 39 years old. And Brian, he has accomplished just about everything you can accomplish as a sprint car driver. The only thing he really hasn't done is get that triple crown with the National Open, but 92 World of Outlaws wins, 2 Kings Royals, a Knoxville Nationals, and so many championships to go along with it. It was an incredible career for Brad Sweet. Now he gets to focus solely on High Limit Racing.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week on the show. I think the stat, I know Tony hates stats, but the stat that does it for me is, Donnie Schatz and Steve Kinzer are the only people in the world that have won more national sprint car titles than Brad Sweet. That says a lot about Brad's career. But yeah, from the moment High Limit started and went national and Brad came over, I think it was a matter of time when Brad would retire. He was not going to be a full-time racer in this series forever. I think now is the right time for him to do it. All of us agree. We're excited to see what he does with more time on his hands to focus on the business side of things. I said it in a tweet last week. His vision for the future of the sport is incredible that I think a lot of fans don't maybe realize. that brings me to my last point. Is it was cool to see how the whole world, like social media, reacted when it was announced that he retired. Just because, obviously, being who he was and starting a new series, a competitor series to the World of Outlaws, and being the top of the sport for 6 years, he wasn't liked by everyone. There were a lot of Brad Sweet haters out there, but it was an overwhelming positive reaction to his retirement. Just congratulations on a great career. Wow, gonna miss you. So it was cool to see that reaction.
Yeah, a lot of people, sending out their well wishes in retirement for Brad Sweet, and well-deserved. An incredible career. And then we found out on Friday of last week that KKR has now found their new driver to pilot what is going to be the Napa Auto Parts number 9, as they have swooped up Dason Pursley, who is the now Rookie of the Year, the defending Rookie of the Year with High Limit Racing. And so that is a big announcement, as KKR, Casey Kane, has found the future of this team going forward, Tony, with 21-year-old Dason Pursley.
Yeah, that's huge news. I think that's huge news for both parties involved. That's huge news for Casey Kane Racing, and that's huge news for Dason Pursley. It's big news for Dason Pursley because, Tom Book gave Dason everything he could, and Sean Strasbaugh is a fantastic crew chief who's been in the game for a long time. But Tom Book, Sean Strasbaugh, they themselves would be the first to tell you, it's pretty hard to match the resources that Casey Kane Racing brings to the table, right? So now Dason Pursley is going to step into this totally different world than he's ever been in, right? A darn near NASCAR level operation in North Carolina with Casey Kane Racing. It's big for Casey Kane because he gets to have one of the up and coming stars, not just in wing sprint car racing, like I talked about on his intro, non-wing sprint cars, micro sprints, Silver Crown cars, midgets. It's all the stuff that Casey and Brad themselves love, which is racing as much as they can. And here's a stat for you, Brian. Every single person in Tannehill's ballroom that night cried when Brad Sweet announced his retirement. Okay, every single person might be a bit of a stretch, but a lot of people did. I saw Brian. He was sobbing. It was wild. I've never seen a man cry so hard. And he didn't cry. He didn't cry that hard. He just cried a little. But yeah, huge deal. And I agree with you, Brian. That's the thing I learned about Brad last year in High Limit, and especially in his championship speech in 2024. No matter what you think of Brad as a driver, no matter what you think of him as anything else, you better respect him as someone who is trying to grow the sport of sprint car racing and take it to massive, massive heights. He's a champion on the track. He's a champion of the sport, trying to grow it. And I have a whole new respect for Brad Sweet, the businessman, and just the champion of the sport of sprint car racing. He's growing it and taking it to new levels all the time.
Yeah, we cannot wait to see what Brad does in retirement. We can't wait to see what he does as a part-time driver as well. I have a feeling the wins are not going to stop.
Number 1.
Abreu wins the Kubota High Limit Racing Championship.
Rico wins the championship in a highly contested point battle.
Year 2025 champion with High Limit Racing is Rico Abreu.
Rico Abreu would wrap up the 2025 Kubota High Limit Racing Championship, his first ever championship, and not only that, he broke the streak that Brad Sweet had of 6 straight years as a national champion, and it was an amazing point battle all the way down to the last race, and that is one thing I want to mention this as well. Not only a big deal that Rico wins this title, but the championship fight all the way down the stretch. It saw 8 or 9 different guys lead the points, and it came down to the last race. It came down to the final lap at the Texas Motor Speedway dirt track. Rico comes out on top, but Brian, this was something that was talked about all year long, was this championship battle.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge selling point all year long, I think, of what made High Limit so successful too and so entertaining, is the point battle was incredible. Into June, it was a 6-way title fight. You had, obviously it came down to Rico, the 87 and the 49. Into June, Justin Peck and Rudine were still in it. Brent Marks and the 7BC, they were alive into September after Skagit. I love our point system because, breaking it down is you get bonus points for being on the podium. So as long as you run well, like you saw with Rico at Skagit, it completely changed his entire season. Going into Oregon that week, he was 75 points back. He goes to Pennsylvania with the title lead for the first time in his career. So, I mean, the swings like that were amazing. Yeah, we had so many lead changes, and it goes down to the final lap of the season between multiple teams and drivers. You can't really ask for anything better than that.
And on top of that, Rico, just an amazing season, 13 wins. That weekend at Skagit where he swept every single night. He swept the final weekend at Texas Motor Speedway as well. 13 high limit wins, 20 wins total in 2025. It was certainly a year that we will never forget. And next year, Tony, we get to announce Rico as the defending series champion when he rolls onto the track.
Yeah, and I've communicated with Rico a little bit since then. He's been sending out some Snapchats of the trophies and the horns from the wins at Texas. And I replied one time, I just said, "You're the champ, man." And he goes, "Haven't stopped smiling." And that's easy to believe because if you spend any time around Rico, you know that his favorite thing to do is smiling. And then I think his second favorite thing to do is drive race cars. That's just Rico Abreu. Yeah, I mean, him and his team assembled back in 2023. I think they won the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame 410 Wing Team of the Year. We handed that award out to him. Bill Wright did from the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame back at Eagle last summer. And Rico had a plan. He just wanted to go out and win races. And then Brad approaches him with High Limit and come join the series. And he sees this opportunity to grow his own racing program. He sees his opportunity to grow as a driver. And that's exactly what he did. Ricky Warner, the guy just wins everywhere he goes, whoever he works with. He could probably crew chief Brian to a race win or two, but maybe in a shopping cart outside of Aldi. And
come on, bud.
What's that?
Come on, bud.
Everyone's so emotional. Super cool for Rico. And it's just crazy when you think about how long he's been racing, how long he's been in dirt, but due to the fact that he's always kind of picked and chose his own schedule and never been loyal to one points battle, that this is his first sprint car championship. It's monumental, it's exciting, and it was so cool to be a part of.
Yeah, it really was. And once again, congrats to Rico Abreu, congrats to Ricky Warner, and you cannot wait to see what they will be able to do in 2026 as the defending series champions with Kubota High Limit Racing. And now they got to try and repeat, and that's going to be fun to watch those guys try to accomplish for next year. Let us know which storylines we forgot from 2025 with High Limit Racing. Let us know in that comment section below what maybe one of your favorite storylines was that we did not talk about. And for now, that's all we've got here with the High Limit Room. We will be back soon. We don't exactly know when, but thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys again down the road.